Hello, Love Bay. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. I hope it's been a good evening for sure. I hope you've had a good day. I hope the month of May has started well. I hope this 2025 is progressing nicely for you because it's definitely flying by. I can't believe it's May already. So, welcome to the Mental Health Hour. Thank you for joining me wherever you are in the world. Please let us know where you are in the world. It's always nice to know where you are connected with us, how you are connecting with us, who you're connecting along with. Sometimes we have couples, sometimes we have families. I know last time there's a bunch of fellas somewhere in the Caribbean who connect together, like they go to the pub and they listen to the mental health hour. I can't remember your names, but I do remember you. So thank you for joining us. Mental health hour is all about your mental health. This is where we take some reflective time to check in with our minds, our hearts, our spirits, our cognitive selves, so that we really understand what's going on with our mental health and what we can do to address it. Call us, text us. Let me see if I can remember this number without looking. I've been saying it for years, but it's just not sticking. 437 778 3299. 437 778 3299. Get in touch, say hello, send your questions, send your comments. You can also email info lovebay at gmail.com, info lovebay at gmail.com. So I love to hear from you, and I thank you for joining me in this mental health hour. My name is Dr. Tapo. I think I've been doing this show at least 3 years. It's been so long, I can't even remember when I started. But I think it was sometime during COVID, maybe year one of COVID or year two. I can't quite remember. But I know that it's lovely to connect. And thanks to all of the Love Bay family that keep this platform strong and going for our different communities wherever you are. So 437 778 3299. Get in touch, text, call. We are on WhatsApp. Country code is +1, like our neighbors over on the dark side in the US. Our country code is 1. So it's +1 437 778 3299. Reach out to us in the chats as well, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, wherever you're streaming us, wherever you are connecting, whatever platform you're using, get in touch. And make sure you also follow Love Bay. This is not the only great show on the station. There are some shows that I love listening to myself. There's the relationship show on Sundays. I mean, that's always very interesting. We have Voices of the Millennial. We have other presenters. So follow Love Base so you can stay connected and know what's coming up. So 437 778 3299. So last week we were talking about sex addiction. We had some questions come in, and some of the questions were, is there a cure? And we've been talking about addiction for months at this stage. We've been diving in deeper into different types of addiction. But one thing to know is it is the same compulsion that is at the root of it. It's not about drugs, it's not about alcohol, it's not about sex or pornography or gambling or all those things. There's something underlying all those things. And addiction is, I would say, a symptom of deeper things going on. And that's why it's really important that you understand that and that you get that and that you get help. Get help. And I keep saying, that loved one that you know, it could be your dad, it could be your mom, it could be your partner, your spouse, your child, your neighbor, that person that you love so deeply, I guarantee you they love you too. So they're not choosing this addiction to hurt you. It's not that they're careless or don't care about themselves or you or don't see the harm that is being done. They get all that, but that's why they need help. They need help. So it's important that we really understand this. If there's one thing that, like, if you've been listening for weeks, or maybe this is your first time listening to Love Bay's Mental Health Hour, that's one thing I really need you to understand. Addiction is not a choice. Addiction is not like a poor man's disease. It's not because people are uneducated or poor or this and that. It is because there are other underlying issues. And that's where your mental health practitioners, your therapists, your psychiatrists, addictions counselors, and all, that's why they're so, 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 so important, right? Before it completely destroys you, seek help, get the help that you need. So that's really important that I want us all to be on the same page around that. So before I go any further, Mental Health Hour, our purpose is to educate, to raise awareness, even to advocate, but we don't replace a licensed, registered, qualified practitioner within your town, city, country, whatever the case might be. So this doesn't replace actual treatment or therapy. This is so you can make those decisions around your treatment or therapy. So today we're talking about something that hits close to home, as close as your refrigerator. That's how close this is. As close as your cupboard. Some of you, it's as close as whatever food you hide under your pillow. We're talking food addiction today. And here's the thing, unlike some of the other things that we've talked about, you can abstain from sex, you can abstain from drugs, you can abstain from alcohol, you can abstain from gambling, you can abstain from pornography. You can't abstain from food, right? You cannot do that. Last week, when we were talking about sex addiction, I explained that sometimes when people are going through treatment, they can go a year or two, even when in a stable marriage or relationship, they can go for a long period of time without engaging in sex because they're trying to regain that control over sex, right? You can't do that with food. I mean, we know people fast for Ramadan, and like for Christians like myself, it's often like the first 30 days of the year or whatever. We fast for religious purposes, sometimes for medical purposes or spiritual purposes, but nobody fasts for a year, right? Most people can probably do 40 days, and it's not even 40 days and 40 nights like Jesus. Let's be honest. There's some other way that we do our 40 days of fasting. There's food in there somewhere, somehow. Why? Because you cannot abstain from food for a long time. That's literally starving to death. That's what that is. And so, food addiction, unlike the other types of addiction, can actually be way more challenging than some other addictions to recover. So it's not about diets, it's not about body shaming. We're not talking about who's obese and who's not. We're not looking at what terminology we should say, uh, full figured and all that. Like, to be honest, all of that is beside the point when we're talking about food addiction. Food is Food addiction is when, similar to the other types of addiction, sex, drugs, marijuana, alcohol, all of that. Food addiction it works the same way. It pretty much works the same way. But like I said, the difference is with food addiction, it's a lot more challenging because you actually need food to survive, to stay alive. And all these other things, you can go the rest of your life without a drop of alcohol. It won't kill you. Without a puff of marijuana, will not kill you. Without sex, will not kill you. Without food, you're starving to death, you die, right? So it is a lot more difficult in that context. So let's go a little deeper. So what is food addiction? A word that will keep coming up is that compulsion. It's compulsive, it's compulsive. And what compulsive means is it's out of your control. It's out of your control. You might go to the grocery store if you're like me. I hardly ever put ice cream. I'll keep confessing that ice cream is, oh my goodness, I need help. If I open my freezer right now, there's like zero meat, there's a couple of bags of vegetables, and there's cartons, plural, of ice cream. And I hardly ever put it on my shopping list. My shopping list will have carrots and strawberries and apples and all this. And it's not that I don't buy those things, I absolutely do. But I can't leave the grocery store without ice cream. And I buy some more ice cream when I still have some in the freezer. Am I addicted to ice cream? Probably. And it's something that I have gone sometimes months without touching ice cream. And here's the thing, I'm lactose intolerant. So I don't eat ice cream when I'm out in public with other people. I eat it by myself at home because I'm lactose intolerant, but I cannot stop. And I'm laughing and all of that because thank goodness it hasn't got to a stage where I can see the harm that it's doing. I mean, it's probably doing harm to my bank account, to be honest. But the truth of the matter is, if I don't get this under control, I will start to see that impact. And what usually happens with me is I can go the entire winter. It's cold outside, no ice cream. As soon as it starts getting bright and colorful outside, somehow it clicks on my brain that it's time for ice cream and I can't stop. Some nights I won't even have actual dinner. I will have ice cream and go to bed. That's my dinner, that's my meal. And I justify this by saying, well, if I'm counting calories, the calories I've eaten in ice cream are equivalent to the calories I would have eaten if I was having an actual meal. But obviously, the ice cream does not in any way benefit my body. It's all about the compulsion. It's all here, right? So it's when I compulsively consume that ice cream despite negative consequences. I haven't experienced negative consequences yet, but if I don't get this under control, it is possible. And I'm very much aware of that. So we need to understand that it's a control thing. Have I lost control over ice cream? Absolutely. Like I'm here, I'm confessing today, and I didn't even plan to confess, but I feel like maybe if I say this out loud and I stop being a hypocrite, because you all are witnessing what I'm saying, maybe I'll get the help that I need, because I definitely need help. I definitely need help when it comes to ice cream. And here's the thing, it didn't start recently. Like, I've been like this since I was a child. I kind of just a little bit blame my parents, because my dad had such a sweet tooth. He would take us and would buy these like 5-liter gallons of ice cream. And so we had to have like one of those deep freezers, so that, and half of the deep freezer is occupied by ice cream. That's the home I grew up in. And I think part of why I am so um, addicted to ice cream is because of that. It's something that mentally and emotionally connects me with my family. I guarantee you, you can go to every, like all of my siblings, my mom, like all of us have ice cream in the fridge. I get in the freezer. I guarantee you that. Probably several types. So as a family, this is the thing. We ate a lot of ice cream. We eat a lot of ice cream. We have not been able to stop. Maybe some of my siblings are a little better, but I've seen us, and it's really, I've never seen any of my siblings turn down ice cream. So sometimes these things seem innocuous, like it seems small, seem insignificant or whatever. But remember, like I've always said, you can go out with your 3 friends, 10 friends, you all smoke marijuana, they are fine, and you're not. Same thing with alcohol. You can have a whole bunch of friends. Every time you drink together, it's fine. But then you can't stop. And now you're drinking out of compulsion rather than socializing and all of that. No one is, I will say, safe, or no one is riskless with a lot of these things that are addictive, right? So for me, I grew up that way. I mean, we had ice cream, yeah, all the time. It was like a staple in our house. And as an adult, I've not been able to break that habit, right? So is food addiction a habit? It's more than that. It's actually more than that. And I have gone periods where I've said, like, okay, that's too much ice cream. I need to stop, and I'll stop. I've gone an entire year, usually like winter and all that. By the time it starts getting cold outside, I'm not even thinking about it. So clearly, the way I consume ice cream has something, it's a lot more deeper than just I like ice cream, right? So food addiction is different from a bad habit. It's not about habits, it's actual addiction. And remember, we said addiction, whether it's to food, sex, alcohol, whatever it is, addiction is a compulsive mental health disorder. It's diagnosable in that it is an actual illness, an actual disorder that needs medical treatment. And by medical treatment, we're talking therapy as well. We're talking, I have a friend who's a dietitian. I'd hoped that she could join us today because part of her job is helping people with food addictions. How do you stop eating a certain way and still make sure you're eating healthy, eating responsibly, eating intentionally? So, food addiction is different from bad food habits. It's different from emotional eating. So when we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I want you to bear this in mind, because often we look at people that we would say are overweight or obese or whatever language you use, and those are the people that we assume are addicted to food. But that's actually incorrect. Food addiction is not about weight. It's about control. It's about how you cope with cravings. It's about how your relationship with food and who is in control. Is it you or is it the food, right? So someone once said it's not always what you're eating, sometimes it's what's eating you. And that's that emotional and mental health piece, right? So signs that you might be struggling with food addiction. One, you eat when you are not hungry. Healthy food habits, you eat when you need to, not when you want to. The difference being, when you eat when you need to, it's about sustaining your body in a healthy way. If it's about when you want to, what often happens when people use the want model, if you will, of eating is that people can go too long without eating, so they're undernourished, or they eat way too much, so they're overeating, right? So, when do you eat? Do you eat when you're hungry, or do you eat when you want to? And the difference is, when you are hungry, your stomach tells you. When you want to, your brains and emotion tell you. That's the difference. And you can't stop. You cannot stop. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to buy a loaf of bread and it should last me a week. And then that loaf of bread only lasts a day because you can't stop. Did you need to eat the whole loaf? No, but you did anyway. And it works like that with almost any type of food. It's the fact that you're eating not because you're hungry, and you're not eating to feel satisfied because you don't feel that satisfaction. You keep eating and eating and eating and eating, right? And then what happens? You're in this cycle, similar with other types of addiction. You get into a cycle of guilt or shame after eating. So if you're eating because you're hungry, you're eating to nourish your body, where's the guilt and the shame coming from? How do you feel after you've eaten? And I remember I had this one client, and she would tell herself, okay, I've planned my meals of blah, 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 and she'll be good at that. Like, she'll tell you, for breakfast, I'll have this, and for lunch, I'll have this, and for dinner, I'll have this, and I'll only allow myself 2 snacks and all. Perfect planning. But when she's now sitting in the therapy and in the therapy chair, and I'm asking her, how did it go? I planned my meal, I did my grocery shopping according to that, and then I found myself at 12 midnight driving around to see which drive-through was open because I needed a burger or a milkshake or fries. Is she driving around past midnight because she's hungry? No. It's because what is in control? The food. So she'll do that, and like, she's burning her gas. She should be sleeping. You need enough sleep to be healthy. And then comes that cycle of guilt and shame, which would only drive her to eat more. So you've lost control. You're not eating when you're hungry. You keep eating even when you're full. And then that guilt and shame plague you. You find yourself obsessing about food. When will I eat this? How will I eat it? And da, da. Almost after you finish the meal, you haven't even started digesting. You're already thinking, I should eat this and I should eat that, and maybe this and that and that, which means within the hour, you're going to be eating again because your mind is obsessed with food. And that cycle of guilt and shame means food is now attached to negative feelings. Those negative thoughts which cause people to eat even more, because especially when what is driving them to that food addiction. So it's similar with the alcohol. I've had clients who, same thing. Maybe I won't completely stop, but I've decided I will only drink on Friday evenings. I won't drink on Saturdays. I won't drink on Sundays, so that by Monday I'm in the good frame of mind to get to work and da da da. That's the plan. And Friday comes, they drink. Saturday comes, they drink. And now they're feeling guilty because they did okay on Friday. Somehow on Saturday, they lost control. And by Monday, because of guilt and shame and feeling weak and all these negative thoughts and feelings, they drank on Sunday, they're now drinking on Monday, and the whole plan has gone to nothing. And then you start hiding, right? You're hiding your habits, you're hiding your shopping, you have secret stashes here and there under the bed, in the pillowcase, in the pillow, in the mattress. I mean, it sounds absurd. It sounds like some kind of Hollywood fiction, but these things actually happen. I have known clients that have talked about how creative they got in hiding food. And not even because anyone would punish them, but it's that guilt and shame. So they're hiding food. There's secret stashes of food all over the place. I think I've talked about this one man who would, on his way home, order an extra large pizza, eat it all, get rid of the box, open the windows to his car so the smell goes away. By the time he gets home, his wife has dinner ready. He'll sit down after eating an extra large pizza in his car on the way home. He's going to eat an entire dinner again within less than an hour. And then it started to impact even his sex life with his wife because he was eating way too much. He felt guilty and ashamed, but also because he was so full, like he can't physically do anything. And she had no idea, none whatsoever. So he came first, and we had some therapy and all of that. And for him, it also turned out he was struggling with depression, right? So we will get into that mental health aspect a little, but she had no idea. And so he invited her to therapy. They came together, and it was the first time she heard him confess every single day. Before I get home, I eat an extra large pizza. Sometimes he orders wings, sometimes not, but every day. And then I get home, I act like I'm hungry, and I eat all the food that you offer me. So by the time you're trying to be sexy and all that, I have no energy because my stomach is full to the brim. And then I feel guilt, and then I feel shame, and it's impacting our relationship. So you have to understand that food addiction, compulsive behavior, one, it's a compulsive behavior. Two, that means you have lost control. You know better. You know. Like, did this man want to be in this cycle? Absolutely not. And then because of that guilt and shame, like I remember him saying, I'm just a fat, lazy, useless man, and da, da, da. And that it's not that his wife said that to him, it's how he started to think of himself because he had lost control. So Food addiction is just like any other addiction, but what's worse about it is we actually need food to survive. So it's challenging for people to break that addiction cycle. Okay. I have some questions here from our listeners. First time viewer, welcome to Candy in Berlin. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. And then we have a listener in Syracuse, New York, who says, great show. Thank you for that. We have Gabby in Montreal, who says, Dr. Tapo, I was trying to put on weight by eating excessively. Now I can't stop. Is this bordering on mental health? Probably. And going back, and I remember saying this when we were talking about alcohol, right? The moment you are using words like can't, the moment you are leaning into this behavior or substance or food to because of some emotional thing that you feel overwhelmed or whatever it is, and your go-to is I need chocolate, I need Coca-Cola, I need Pepsi. Some of these beverages, I will tell you this. I know lots of people who are addicted to pop, that's what we call it here, or soft drinks or soda, depending on what you call it, wherever you are in the world. I'm talking about Pepsi, Coca Cola, Fanta, these sweet, fizzy drinks. And what you're addicted to is the sugar. I will get into sugar very soon. So, going back to Gabby in Montreal, if you find you cannot stop, you have lost control, we are now talking compulsions and we are now talking addiction. You wanted to gain weight, and maybe you have, I'm not sure from your message, but now what has happened is you have lost control over your eating habits. You have lost control over your food. And now you're eating excessively, not out of choice. It has now taken over. That is the definition of addiction, right? And then somebody else in Ottawa is asking, is binge eating a mental health issue? Oh, absolutely, 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 absolutely. And here's the thing, and why it's important not to judge by a person's body, like, oh, that woman or that man or that person is overweight, so they must be addicted to food. There's a lot of people who are addicted to food, but skinny as a rake, very slim, all that. Even some, even muscular. But it doesn't mean that they have control over their food. It does not mean that. Sometimes what people do, and I had this one client who was addicted to food and then would punish themselves with excessive exercising. Exercising is healthy, but anything in excess is not. And so, what ended up happening is they were pushing their body so much, they ended up injured because the body could not. And that's because they were thinking, well, I ate 2,000 calories. I'm going to go to the gym and work off those 2,000 calories no matter what. And they keep pushing themselves in a way of trying to find control. But it's not the exercise that they need to be controlling, it's the food, right? So, binge eating, similar to binge drinking, is when you eat a huge amount of food in a very short time. And what often happens is people will starve themselves all day. I'm not going to eat. I will fast until dinner. And then dinner comes, and they can't stop eating. They can't stop eating. So, in a way of trying to balance that, it's similar to me saying sometimes for dinner, I have ice cream. I don't binge eat ice cream. Fortunately, I can put 2 scoops in a bowl and I'm good and I'm done. Right. So, like one of those small Ben and Jerry's that can last me a week. So, this is how I also like comfort myself that I don't eat it excessively, but I do eat it regularly. So, binge eating, similar to binge drinking, is when you consume that thing a huge amount in a very short time and you work in cycles. You work in cycles. So, what happens sometimes is a person will say, okay, no more junk food for me. I'm done with junk food. I'm not doing this. And they'll go 2 weeks or whatever. And then they grab a bag of chips, like the big family size ones, and they can't stop. And so they eat that whole thing. That is binge eating in one sitting. Is it a mental health issue? Yes. Yes. So this listener in Ottawa is asking, is binge eating a mental health issue? I love binging as opposed to sitting down to eat. I think you definitely need to explore that. Why you can't sit down, which is the healthy option. Sit down, eat your meal slowly and mindfully. When you say you love binging as opposed to sitting down to eat, what I'm imagining is someone while you're standing. And the thing is, the faster you eat, the more likely you are to eat more. That's why even dietitians, even mental health therapists, even medical people will tell you chew slowly, chew mindfully, then you're less likely to eat more than you need to. So, binge eating, definitely explore that. To our listener in Ottawa, I would suggest you see a dietitian to start. And what dietitians do is, so they are different from nutritionists. I want to be clear. Here in Canada, and I think in most countries, dietitians are registered healthcare professionals, which means they have normally they would have a degree in dietetics or something similar and a master's degree, right? And they are registered. So when we say registered, similar to registered psychotherapists, physicians are registered physicians. Registered means they are operating under a legalized profession that has a college that has oversight on their practice, their ethics, the legalities of it, and all of that. And so that's dietitians. Whereas nutritionists don't need to be registered, don't go into as much education as well. With dietitians, they really, really understand the science, so they look at the science of food. They use food too as treatment. So if you have cancer, if you have some kind of disease, and food, this is the important thing. And why I was saying food addiction is challenging, because unlike other types of addictions, you can't abstain, right? Food, the number one purpose of food is to sustain our bodies and our minds as part of our bodies. When we get sick, so I've worked in clinics alongside dietitians and alongside nurse practitioners, physicians, and all of that. And as part of a team, we support patients with their healthcare issues. So they might have come to the doctor because I know they've been experiencing pain in their side for 2 weeks. It's getting worse. It's not getting better, all of that. Good medical practice, the doctor will ask holistic questions, discover that, okay, maybe this person needs to see a dietitian because we need to investigate more what they're eating, how they're eating, and how that might be impacting their health. They may also refer to a therapist because it might also have a lot to do with what they're eating, how they're eating, when they're eating, and all of that is being influenced by some emotional or mental health issue. So, Bob's in Ottawa and even Gabby in Montreal, I suggest you see dietitians to start, but also connect with therapists. Dietitians help you understand the science of your body, help you understand how those foods that you're eating might be impacting your physical health, and they get you on track. They also prescribe food as medicine to your body. They will tell you if your hair has been falling out, eat A, B, C, and D. If your nails have turned gray or whatever, it means something is lacking in your body, eat A, B, C, and D. They will look at your blood results and see where you have deficiencies and all of that and tell you what you can eat. So they prescribe food as medicine for your body, which is what food is. Us as human beings, we like food to be sweet and sour and salty and tangy and all these things. Food doesn't need to be any of that to benefit our bodies, but we have focused so much on taste that we have forgotten that food is supposed to sustain our bodies. And because we focus so much on taste, we lean into the things that taste good. And here's the thing, most of those things are processed. And that's not to say a strawberry doesn't taste good, it does. But have you ever noticed you can buy a carton of strawberries and 5 out of those strawberries are nice and sweet? 15 are bitter and da da da. And you only want those five that are nice and sweet and you don't want the bitter ones. Guess which ones have the nutrients that you need? All of them, right? All of them. So when we focus too much on taste, this is where we get lost in some of these things that are harming our bodies. Okay. So let's go over those signs that you might be dealing with food addiction again. You eat when you are not hungry. You keep going even when you are full. You feel guilt or shame after eating. You obsess about food. Where, when, how much, taste, and all that type of thing. And then you hide what and how much you're eating. So you go to the doctor, and the doctor asks you, what's your diet like? And you're telling him, oh, I eat carrots quite a bit. And in your head, you know, you're saying carrots, but really it's chocolate. You talk about, oh, I like apples and I like spinach. You're saying that, but you don't like spinach, you like chips. We lie because we know that we've lost control. Similar to other forms of addiction, addicts will hide things, will lie about things, will minimize the impact. Oh, I only drink socially. And then how often do you socialize? Oh, I see my friends like almost every night. That means you're drinking every night. But we call it socially to minimize it and make it look like it's not that bad, right? So once you find you're starting to hide things, you're feeling that guilt and shame, you're focusing on food obsessively, you probably have a problem. You probably have a problem. Here's a scientific fact: sugar, salt, fat. Them three: sugar, salt, fat. Now, I don't know if you've been listening for long, but a while ago, I explained the chemical reaction that is addiction in our brains. how it works with drugs, with gambling, with sex. It's the dopamine, right? Those happy chemicals. You engage in that thing, and for a minute, it gives you a high, and then you crash. And so you go looking again, gives you a high, then you crash. And we were talking about sex addiction. Before you know it, you slept with several people, you don't even know them in one day. We talked about Lamar, what's his name? I can't remember his last name, who confessed that he slept with over 2,000 women. And what that was basically he's having the sex, he's enjoyed the chase, it brings him on a high, he crashes, he feels, I need this again. So it's constantly up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, salt, sugar, fat. Those three trigger a release of dopamine in the brain. Dopamine, if you remember, is a pleasure chemical, a pleasure hormone in the brain. Sugar, fat, salt trigger dopamine, which is the chemical that brings pleasure to the brain or that registers pleasure in the brain. So, repeated exposure to salt, sugar, fat rewires the brain to crave that high. Same as with drugs, same as with sex addiction, same as any other addiction. Sugar, salt, fat work the same. So, just like cocaine, just like alcohol, it works the same. Just like pornography, gambling, all of those things, it works the same. So, understand that food is addictive, and you will find you often look for the same things. And sometimes you'll say, okay, no, like for me, I'll say, no, no, no more ice cream. I'm done, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And so I stop with the ice cream. But then I start with the chocolate. And I don't really like that chocolate that much, to be honest with you. I can go forever without eating chocolate. In fact, the only time I eat chocolate is if somebody buys it for me or when I go to Europe, because chocolate in Europe is way better than chocolate here. I have some family in Belgium. When I come from Belgium, my suitcase is full of Belgian chocolate, and I will eat that until it's gone, and I don't even think of chocolate again. But I quickly replace the sugar in ice cream with sugar in something else. So is it that I'm addicted to ice cream or I'm addicted to sugar? I don't drink fizzy drinks like pop and all that. I don't enjoy them at all. I don't enjoy them at all. But I know there's some people, they will drink 20 cans a day, and I'm not even joking. They cannot stop. So the way others drink water, they drink Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever it is. And it's the sugar. And it's the sugar. Some time ago, we were talking about stress and managing stress. And the thing is, a lot of people start on this road of food addiction because of stress. So you're having a hard time, you start feeling certain things, you grab that chocolate bar or the packet of chips, or most often it's that fizzy drink because it's easy, right? You're sitting at your desk, you're doing work, and you're sipping on a can of Coke, and then it's finished, and you're still working, and you're feeling stressed. You go get another one. Before you know it, in an 8-hour work day, you've had 7 cans of pop. It is not impossible. There are people who actually live that way or drink like the 2 liter every day, one person. That's the sugar that is releasing dopamine. And just like any other substance, and we talked about this, or any other type of addiction, we talked about that. you build a tolerance. So before you could go a whole day on one can of Pepsi. Now that one can doesn't do much for you. You keep drinking it and drinking it and drinking it and drinking it until bedtime. So until you go to sleep. And then the morning comes and you're building a tolerance. For me, if I drink one can of those fizzy drinks, I feel so full, bloated, gassy, all that stuff. But if I drank two and then three and then four, the more I build that tolerance, sometimes I stop feeling that gassy, uncomfortable feeling because my body is building a tolerance. It's the same way we talked about with marijuana. The first time you have a joint, it hits you really, it just feels like, but then after a while, you can have 3, 4, 8 joints a day, and it doesn't have the same impact anymore because you're building a tolerance. So you can build a tolerance for sugar, for salt, for fat the same way, and find that you need to consume more to get that same dopamine release. Okay. So we're almost out of time, but I want us to just finish with some myth busting, right? True or false? This is, I'm sure you're going to get all of these right. So we're recapping. True or false, you can't be addicted to food like you can to drugs. And we've said that's false. Food, especially those processed foods. And the thing is, and this is where why rather some people prefer to buy organic and all of that, because the truth is a lot of these food manufacturers, once they figure out that, okay, if we want people to keep coming back, let's use this ingredient. And often those ingredients that they add to whatever are addictive. And that's why they're adding them there so that you keep coming back. I know most of us have seen like how much sugar, for example, is in a can of Coke, and you're drinking that several times a day. We've seen uh, how much sugar, how much salt is in like even a bag of chips. If you look on the nutritional facts, it's surprising how much salt is in a bag of chips. But they know how to make it taste good so you keep coming back for more. I remember when I first moved to Ireland some years ago from Canada, and I ordered Chinese food in Ireland. I think I ordered like I think it was barbecue ribs and that. And the food came and I was having the food with my brother and his wife. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, this isn't what I ordered. And she said, yes, it is. Those are barbecue ribs. And I was like, no, no way, no way. And you know what the difference is? I was used to barbecue ribs from here in North America, where they drown them in sugar. And when I went to Ireland and asked for barbecue ribs, they did not have that sugar, or at least not as much. So they didn't taste sweet. And I went into this whole like, no, no way, this is not barbecue ribs. And she was like, yes, it is. Showed me on the menu, everything. But what was missing was the sugar. And the thing is, I don't know if people in China, when they make ribs, put as much sugar and what we call Chinese food here. You'd be surprised how much sugar they put in things that are not even meant to be sweet and sour, but there's sugar. in our bread, how much sugar they put in that. And we don't taste it, but it's there in quantities that make us over consume because we're looking for that sugar. So you really want to pay attention to the sugar, to the salt, and to the fat in your food. Why? Just looking at it strictly from an addiction perspective, think about, how am I choosing what foods I eat? So when you have a dinner plate, you're skipping over the spinach because there's no sugar and fat in that. There's a little bit of salt, maybe, but not enough to make it tasty. You're skipping over certain things because unconsciously, that dopamine brain of yours is looking for sugar, it's looking for salt, it's looking for fat. Let's go back to them barbecue ribs I was talking about. They have all three. They have the sugar, they have the salt, they have the fat. So we keep going back to them. And so we need to pay attention. How are we even choosing what foods we eat? Are we looking for the sugar? Are we looking for the salt? Are we looking for the fat? Or do we actually look for the nutritional value in the food? Okay, here's another true or false. Only overweight people have food addiction. And what did we say to that? That is definitely false. Even people who don't appear, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. There are people who are even struggling with anorexia, which is when people go the opposite. Instead of eating a lot, they hardly eat at all. And that too is addictive in a way. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. There's a message here from Jim in Kansas City, I think. Yeah. Dr. Tapo, should binge eating with children be a concern with parents? Absolutely. 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 And next week we'll talk about that. But binge eating, especially when we're talking about eating disorders, of which food addiction can be comorbid. If you remember last year, we are talking about, when we talk about comorbid, is when you have two or more mental health issues that one person is struggling with. And binge eating is one of those things, food disorders. So, food addiction, food disorders, we'll definitely talk about that some more next week. I'll see if I have a dietitian who can come on, because I think it's really, really important that you understand this from a medical perspective, right? Should you be concerned if your children are binge eating? Absolutely. Because binging anything is never, ever good for the brain, for the body. Because if we're talking about food and you're binge eating food, what that essentially means is you're eating way more than you need, which means if it's sugar, you're consuming way more than is healthy for you. I'm not even sure what amount of sugar is healthy. If it's salt, if it's fat, whatever it is, binge eating, binge drinking, binging on Coca-Cola, binging on whatever, never, ever, ever, ever a good thing, including binging on your Netflix. But that's an aside. So, to our listener in Kansas City, please tune in next week. All you people that have questions on binge eating, but also on conditions like anorexia, uh, food disorders, tune in next week because we'll be talking about that. And I'm really going to look for a dietitian to come on and talk to us some more about food addiction. about food disorders, eating disorders, like binge eating, like purging is another one, where people will eat a huge, 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 huge amount and then force themselves to throw up, and eat huge amounts, force themselves to throw up. And sometimes it's not even that they've eaten huge amounts, it's just the fact that they've eaten. They force themselves to throw up as a way of trying to manage their body weight and size. So we'll talk about that some more next week. Love Bay Radio Mental Health Hour. Honestly, it's always great to spend this time with you. If you still have questions, more comments, send them in even during the week, because that way I can come prepared to answer your questions. 437-778-3299. Reach out on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Instagram as well. And follow Love Bay Radio. Follow me as well. I think, what's my handle? At Dr. Tapo on Instagram. I don't think I'm still on X. If I am, I forgot how to log in a long, long time ago. Get in touch. Have a wonderful day. Eat mindfully just this week alone. Pay attention to how much sugar, salt, fat, when you're eating, how much you're eating. Don't obsess about it, but do pay attention. Good night.